I never imagined a black woman could change everything for my billionaire family's triplets. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started with a knock, and when she stepped in, I felt an undeniable shift in the air. Her skin, rich and radiant, glimmered against the backdrop of our opulent mansion. When I looked into her eyes, I saw a storm brewing, a mix of determination and mystery that left me breathless. Who was she, and why was she here? In moments like this, our wealth felt like a heavy burden. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing my anxiety. My parents had always raised us the triplets to believe we were untouchable. But the truth was, the world we lived in was fragile. Our lives were built on a foundation of appearances and pretense. I wanted to scream for help, but instead, I stood frozen, as if caught in a web of intrigue. I was the middle child, always the mediator between my two siblings. My sister, in her perfectly curated life of fashion and parties, and my brother, who always collected trophies instead of friendships. We were so different, yet so united in our facade. We lived a life bursting with luxury, but inside, I felt like a ghost, drifting through meaningless parties and empty conversations. The woman Elena, she introduced herself, folded her arms with authority. She didn't care about our family's reputation. She was here for something deeper. As she spoke, her voice resonated with a truth I couldn't ignore. She challenged our reality. Day by day, our world became both brighter and darker. The laughter at dinner turned into hushed whispers. Then came the whispers of the family scandal, the one that could destroy us. I overheard my parents arguing in the dead of night, their voices rising like flames, crackling with rage. You let her in. My mother's fury felt like heat on my skin. She's dangerous, but I sensed something about Elena. There was a spark of hope in her presence as she pushed against the walls we'd built around us. I watched my siblings gauge her, torn between skepticism and curiosity. Why was I the only one enchanted? Days passed, but her impact grew. Just a glance from her sent shivers down my spine. She held secrets we could only dream of. I gripped my hands tightly, the weight of our lives closing in. I wanted to dive deeper, to understand everything she promised. But there was fear, too, whispering. What would this mean for us? One evening, I followed her to the edge of our family estate, the moonlight guiding my way through the shadows. She stood by the lake, her voice barely a whisper against the gentle ripples. Your family's legacy is built on lies, she said. It's time to uncover the truth. Her eyes sparkled with conviction, even as uncertainty wrapped around my heart. Could she really be the key to unlocking our fears? To changing our lives forever? As I stood there, the night air thickening with tension, I felt a surge of hope and dread intertwine. Who would we become if we followed her? Was it truly worth the risk? Then, in that pivotal moment, I heard the distant sound of a door creaking open. My breath caught in my throat. Someone was watching us. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A chill swept through the night air like a warning bell, cutting the fragile thread of curiosity I had been weaving with Elena. I turned, heart pounding, eyes darting to the darkened path that led back to our mansion. The shadow that lingered there was unmistakable. Me sister, Tessa, clad in her signature designer loungewear. Her expression a mixture of confusion and skepticism, every bit the picture of our family's expectations. What are you doing out here? Tessa's tone was flat, and the bite in her voice was unmistakable. Mom and Dad are going to freak if they find you missing. Elena, with her calm demeanor, stood unwavering. I was just speaking with your sister about the truth, she said, her voice steady, inviting yet filled with a challenge that pierced through Tessa's icy demeanor. Truth? Like the truth of our family's perfect little facade? Sounds like nonsense to me. Tessa scoffed, arms crossed tightly over her chest, a barrier against the emotions swirling in the air between us. I felt a spark of desperation rise within me. Wait, Tessa, just listen. She's a stranger. Tessa snapped. You don't know anything about her. This is exactly how scandals start, Ryan. Elena took a step closer, gently interrupting. Scandals often hide truths, my dear. Your family is not the only one with secrets. But sometimes, secrets are the very things that bind us. The air thickened with tension, and I could sense the shifting currents of our sibling dynamic as if they were tangible. Tessa's rigid stance wavered for just a moment, her eyes flitting to me before hardening again. You're not serious about this, are you? You're just going to follow a random woman's hints? She's going to ruin us. Ruined or renewed, I wasn't sure. But deep inside, the small flame of hope I crafted from Elena's words struggled against the blanket of fear sewn over our lives. What if she's right? I argued softly. What if there's more to our family than just wealth? Tessa laughed bitterly, her expression a blend of disbelief and hurt. You think our family is lying to us? They're just trying to protect us, Ryan. They can't afford to have another scandal after everything that happened last year. I knew the everything she mentioned, the whispers of betrayal and the fallout that had shaken our seemingly flawless image. It was a crack I thought we'd repaired, but looking at Tessa now, I realized we were still standing on the precipice, just waiting for another push. An air of defeat hung over us, and I took a deep breath, hoping to reclaim some of my lost bravery. Maybe we should be afraid of what happens if we don't question it. Can't we at least explore what Elena is suggesting? Tessa shook her head vehemently, but just then, the sound of a car engine roared to life in the distance, drawing our attention. We turned, caught off guard by the rooted brakes crunching across the gravel driveway. A hot pink vintage convertible rolled into view, headlights piercing through the dark, illuminating the path toward us that Tessa mused, squinting against the light, realization dawning in her eyes. Then we saw her, the woman who had rocked our world, not Elena, but our estranged cousin, Lyric, who we hadn't seen since her fallout with our parents, an event that had quietly shaped our family's narrative. Her confident gait and careless laughter as she stepped out of the car told me she was bringing chaos along with her. Surprise. She grinned, as if it were just a normal day, her voice cutting through the intensity of the moment. I heard you all were having a little party without me. Tessa's face paled, while I exchanged uncertain glances with Elena. In this instant, the upturn of events compacted into a sour knot in my stomach. I was struck by the sudden realization that Lyric's presence could unravel whatever little understanding we had begun to forge. As laughter melted into silence and the tension simmered, I found myself wrestling with an unshakable feeling. We had crossed a line, and there would be no going back to the way things were. Our truths were almost within our grasp, but now, with Lyric's return, it felt as if we were standing on yet another cliff, ready to spiral downwards once more. Do you like the car? Lyric asked, unaware of the storm brewing along with her arrival, her cheeky smile fading as she took in our faces. Each expression told her a story she wasn't prepared for. In that moment, I realized our fragile, glamorous lives were about to shift once again, teetering on the brink of revelation or chaos. And as the world around us shifted, my heart raced with uncertainty, crawling into the shadows of dread. I knew this moment could change everything, but would we be strong enough to face it, no longer entangled solely within the bounds of our family's legacy? The evening air grew heavier, tinged with a combination of familial love and fear, thick as the fog rolling in from the sea. The laughter that had once filled the space around us vanished, leaving us hovering at the crossroads between joy and despair. Lyric stood in front of us like an intruder at a family reunion that had taken an unexpected turn. What are you doing here, Lyric? Tessa managed to spit out, her voice a mix of indignation and an undercurrent of disbelief. You can't just show up after all this time without warning. Lyric raised an eyebrow, the carefree spirit shed exuded just moments before now, cloaked in cautious anticipation. Relax, Tess. I didn't come to start trouble. I just thought the family could use a little fun. Plus, I heard there's a lot of drama brewing. She flashed a playful grin, though I sensed it was a fragile mask for deeper emotions that lingered beneath that a fragile illusion shattered within me. We were not only standing on a precipice, but now we had a new player in the game, a wild card. I felt a mix of frustration and intrigue as I observed the complex interplay of emotions swirling around us. Lyric had always been a touchstone of unfiltered honesty in our family. Her very presence drew out our repressed fears and unspoken truths, and I could only wonder what she had in store for us. Elena stepped forward, her voice smooth but laced with a hint of caution. We were just discussing our family's history, Lyric. You might want to sit this one out. History, huh? Lyric raised her chin defiantly. Or should I say the lies we've been told? Do I sense some juicy secrets? Because let's be real, Ryan and Tessa, you know I'm not the only one hiding from the truth. Tessa's expression turned stone-like, embodying all the resistance I had seen in her before, a wall built meticulously over years. This isn't the time for your theatrics, Lyric. You have no idea what we're dealing with. But maybe I do, she shot back. I had to deal with the wreckage you all left behind after I chose to step away. You think you're living in a perfect bubble, but how can you not see it's about to burst? At that moment, my world tilted. I was intrigued and terrified all at once. What do you mean, wreckage? I demanded, hoping to push through the tumult of my own thoughts. What happened that made you leave? The familial tension hung thick like the fog enveloping us. Lyric inhaled deeply, her eyes keen under the moonlight as if she weighed her next words with extreme care. You really want to know? She asked, her voice suddenly subdued. You think our family is just a charming facade? You think we're perfect? Flawless? There are scars beneath the surface. Scars that can change everything. I felt a pit grow in my stomach. Clarity emerged through the haze of apprehension. Tell me, I urged, grasping at the strands of knowledge she was dangling before us. What really happened? Lyric hesitated, glancing between Tessa and me, a flicker of regret passing through her expression before she seemed to gather the strength to proceed. There are secrets we all pretend don't exist, secrets behind closed doors. You think you know your parents, but they're not the pillars of strength you think they are. Last year wasn't just a simple scandal, it was far more. It was a culmination of things that had been festering for years. It felt as if Lyric's words unraveled something deep within me, forcibly pulling at the heartstrings that had kept us bound for so long, exposing fragile emotions that no one in our family dared to acknowledge. My eyes found Tessa's, and in her gaze, I saw a reflection of fear matching my own. Then, as if choreographed by fate, Elena stepped forward and placed her hand on my shoulder, offering an anchor to the unease surging through me. The truth sets us free, doesn't it? Isn't that what we're all looking for? To find out who we are beneath all this? Tessa stared at Elena, disbelief clouding her features. You're siding with her? It's not about sides. It never has been, Elena replied coolly. It's about choice. We can choose to turn away, or we can choose to lean into the storm. You need to choose your path wisely. Lyric's laughter rang hollow, a striking contrast to the calm that had settled around us. Wise is a fragile word for a family with such heavy history. Are you ready to listen, or will you shield yourselves with preconceived notions? It was a moment bursting with potential, tension thickening like storm clouds on the horizon. I felt responsibility weighing on my shoulders, yet the shared history among us felt more like a heavy chain than a bond. Here was a choice. A chance to peel back layers of hurt and discover hidden truths, or to retreat into the ever-comforting shadows of our ignorance. But before I could speak, the ground underneath us shifted. The lights of the house flickered in a sudden power surge, sending all of our eyes wide with shock. In the darkness, a lingering truth seemed to echo around us. Painfully intimate, yet deeply unspoken. Mom and Dad are coming back, Tessa said quietly, dread pooling at her feet. And they want like this, as the words hung in the air. Each heartbeat pulsated with an undercurrent of fear, revealing the impending storm that could drown us in its wake. The choices lay starkly before you's existence, blurred by the urgency of truth or the comfort of denial, with the night air tinged with the scent of impending chaos. The house felt like it was trembling, the walls collapsing inward with the weight of unspoken truths and the tremors of uncertainty. As Tessa's words settled over us like a heavy blanket, a chill crept into the air, almost as if the environment itself understood that we were standing on an emotional precipice. In the breathless silence, I could sense Lyric's confidence wavering. The smile that had danced on her lips moments ago gave way to a nervous edge. Fine, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Let's talk. I turned to Tessa, hoping she'd break the tension with a laugh or a scowl that would deflate the situation. but she merely blinked back unshed tears, as if the magnitude of Lyric's presence was already fracturing her defenses. My heart raced, the impending arrival of our parents looming like a dark cloud. Each minute felt like an hour, the weight of family history pressing down on us, thickening the space around us until it was suffocating. Elena stepped closer to Lyric, her instincts as an empath often appearing instinctive. "You don't have to do this alone, you know," she said softly, carefully untying the knots of tension in the air with gentle empathy. "Whatever it is, it's okay. We can face it together." Lyric studied Elena's face as if searching for something she had lost along the way. "It's not just about me," she replied, her voice wavering slightly. "It's about everyone. About all of us. Our parents, they aren't the people you think. They've painted this perfect picture, but behind it lies the truth that could ruin us." "What truth?" Tessa asked, her voice sharper than before, a mix of challenge and desperation. "What do you know that we don't?" Lyric took a deep breath, and in that moment, the spark behind her eyes shifted from uncertainty to resolution. "When I left last year, it wasn't just because I needed space. I stumbled across documents, messages, things that painted a very different story of our family. Secrets that would make you question everything, like the deals our parents were making behind closed doors, the things they sacrificed to keep this facade intact." "What do you mean?" I interjected, my voice trembling as anxiety clawed at my chest. "What kind of deals?" "Trust funds built on stolen hopes. Investments in companies with morally questionable practices, things I couldn't make sense of when I found them," Lyric said, each word piercing through our complex tapestry of inherited wealth and values. "It's all tied together, money that comes at a price we weren't meant to pay." A silence draped over us like a damp blanket, thick and uncomfortable. Tessa clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. "Don't say this, Lyric. You don't know what you're talking about. Mom and Dad, they would never." "You have to see," Lyric pressed, her voice rising slightly. "They are not the saints you believe them to be. They're human, just like the rest of us, and all this, it's unsustainable. The longer we ignore it, the more it festers, and if they come back without addressing it, we might lose everything." With every syllable, the air crackled with a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. I could see Tessa wrestling with the truth, her internal world warring against the comforting image of our parents. "Why are you telling us now?" she asked, her voice an echo of pain. "Why not earlier? Why wait until everything is on the verge of exploding?" "Because I thought I could fix it on my own, that I wouldn't need to drag you through this mess. But I realize I was wrong. It's too much to shoulder alone, especially now with our parents returning," Lyric replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But I can't stand back and watch us drown in this illusion of happiness anymore." Before I could respond, an unexpected sound shattered our tenuous peace. A knock echoed through the kitchen, fierce and authoritative, beckoning us back to reality. My heart dropped as I recognized the sound, an unwanted herald of our parents' presence, signaling a rush of coordinated chaos. The kind of chaos that could either expose us or bury us deeper in silence. "What do we do?" Tessa whispered, her voice tinged with a rising panic. She looked at all of us, desperation flooding her eyes. Elena squeezed her hand tightly, seeking strength in the urgency of the moment. Lyric stepped forward, her demeanor shifting from uncertainty to courage. "We must confront this together. But you have to trust me, no more half-truths," she declared, her voice steadying the tremors of our disquiet. With every breath, I felt the weight of the world pressing against my chest. There was no turning back now. As the door swung open, light spilling across the threshold into our tense circle, I was filled with a rush of dread and resolve that this would change everything. No one could outrun the truth. Not anymore. And just as our parents stepped into the room, a shocking voice from the past flooded in uninvited. "Mom, Dad, there's something we need to discuss." The words tumbled from my lips without my consent, a desperate attempt to confront the storm that had been brewing. The moment hung there, frozen in time, as the veil over our family began to unravel, leaving the shimmering truth dangling just out of reach. The eyes of my parents widened in sync, their expressions shifting from surprise to concern, then to something resembling controlled anger. I could see the power struggle brewing underneath, their authority challenged in the most unexpected way. This was not just a moment of reckoning. It felt like the first crack in the dam holding back everything we had taken for granted. What do you think this is? My father's voice was low, simmering with a tension that radiated from him like heat. We do not confront our family like this. We do not air our dirty laundry in front of anyone, especially not. His words hung in the air, the implication clenching tighter around my heart. Family secrets, unspoken traumas. This was all branded into our existence like a mark of honor that we were not allowed to tarnish, no matter how true it felt. Dad, we cannot keep living this lie, Lyric said, her voice cutting through the thick air, persistent even in the face of our parents' mounting fury. You don't get to dictate how we handle this anymore. But instead of backing down, my father surged forward with a presence that sparked anxiety through my veins. And what would you suggest, Lyric? That we just throw everything we built away? You think you can just waltz back in after your little rebellion and act like you've suddenly unearthed the family's deeper meanings? We can't keep pretending we're perfect. Tessa blurted out, her voice a frantic whisper, as if raising it might shatter our fragile hope for truth. What if we are just tearing each other apart by keeping secrets? What if there's something worse waiting for us if we don't face it together? Secrets? My mother interjected, her tone sharp, brimming with the weight of disbelief. You truly think you can understand everything just because you've returned with some hearsay? You think this is all about you? The walls felt like they were closing in, tension spiraling thicker by the moment. My heart pounded in my chest as I processed my family, the sorrow eclipsed by anger that was at war with sadness. I had begun to feel the desperate pull of connection, the bond that tied us together amid the chaos eroding at the edges. Elena took a tentative step forward, her empathy pulsing like a beacon in this storm. Your children are hurting. They're seeking honesty, Mom, something more than the facade that's been built. Family is fragile, Elena. You of all people should understand that. Don't stir the pot. My father's voice rebounded, brisk with authority. I could see a flicker of pain beneath his fierce exterior, but he quickly stamped on it, burying the remnants of vulnerability. Maybe fragility is our problem, Lyric yelled, her voice trembling yet fierce, dropping the shield she had carried for too long. For years you've wanted us to be something we're not, and now I'm terrified. Terrified that it's taken all these secrets to get here, to this moment, this confrontation. We are all falling apart. The room felt electric with unresolved tension, like a live wire threatening to snap. My palms grew damp, my thoughts swirling like autumn leaves in a gust. I could hear our parents' breathing growing ragged, merging with the air thick with accusation and fear. Yet at the same time, there was a flicker of hope and urge to break free from our spiral. Let's find common ground, I said, desperately reaching for understanding in the widening chasm. Can we at least start there? Address all of this together as a family? We need to work towards something, not just fight against each other. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world held its breath, teetering on our collective hope. But then, just as the atmosphere shifted from despair to a hint of possibility, my brother Ethan, who had stood quietly in the corner, finally spoke up, his voice reluctant yet steely. That's easy for you to say, but what will it take for us to uncover the truth when half of us barely know what that looks like? His words hung heavy, the silence that followed filling the room like fog. In that indecisive breath, a crack in the wall suddenly felt less like a prison and more like an opportunity. If we could start striving to reveal our truths while holding each other's hands through the fall, perhaps we might step into a brighter future, however uncertain. But as the hope unfurled, another knock echoed through the hallway. It was louder than before and filled with urgency, sending tremors through my spine, a reminder that fury and loss were closer than we dared to admit. He'll get it, Tessa murmured, but my instincts flared with concern. What if it was bad news? What if the secrets that held us captive had found their way to the outside world, threatening to ruin whatever fragile peace this moment offered? Before I could call after her, she swung the door wide. What is it? She asked, stepping back to reveal the empty threshold only to have her eyes grow wide in shock as she stepped aside. Standing there, silhouetted against the dim light, was someone no one expected, someone from our past, whose presence threatened everything we thought we knew. I felt my breath hitch, the ground beneath me trembling again as this new chapter threatened to swallow us whole. The doorway yawned wide, a passage into an uncharted realm of fear, and uncertainty. There stood Ava, our estranged aunt, her presence a jagged edge against the softness of our family gathering. Her hair, a cascade of wild curls, framed a face that had seen too much sunlight while harboring shadows from our family legacy. I barely recalled her. The whispers of our parents about her choices had crystallized into a thick fog over our memories. "What are you doing here?" My father's voice sliced through the charged air, raw and edged. Ava's gaze, fierce and unwavering, landed on each of us, searching, daring us to absorb the weight of her return. "I came to talk," she declared, her tone both defiant and weary. "There's something you all need to know the truth about why I left." Panic spiked in my chest as I exchanged glances with my siblings. Did she intend to unravel the delicate threads of our carefully woven fabric? Yet, the urgency thrumming in her voice felt like the crack of light through the storm clouds looming over us. "Now's not the time." "Ava," my mother interjected, stepping forward, a protective instinct flaring to life. "You have no idea what we're dealing with." "But I do," Ava pressed, eyes brimming with a tenacity that bordered on desperation. "I know more than you think, and it's a hell of a lot more than you've shared. You think the choices I made were just about me, but they impacted all of us." And this she gestured around the room, indicating the palpable tension. This mess is a consequence of that. For a moment, silence bowed beneath the weight of her words, the air strained with unspent emotions. My heart ached with the realization that we had not only been fearing the open wounds we harbored, but also the unacknowledged scars woven into our family history. What could Ava possibly reveal that would change everything we had fought not to confront? "Why now?" Lyric whispered, her voice small, yet filled with an undeniable edge of curiosity. "Because it's time. You're unraveling. And sometimes the only way to stitch together the fabric is to expose every loose thread," Ava replied, her expression softening as her gaze lingered on us. "And sometimes, it takes a different perspective to break the cycle." My mind raced at the possibilities. Would she expose secrets that painted our parents in a new light? Would it swallow us whole? Tessa looked at her, a glimmer of understanding forming in her wide-eyed stare. "You mean everything we thought we knew is a lie?" Ava's silence spoke volumes, her head nodding slowly as she braced for the temperature of emotions that would follow. I felt my heart sink under the enormity of her admission. Did we possess the strength to unearth truth without collapsing under its weight? But before she could speak again, a voice cut through, a familiar one, panic-stricken and raw. "What are you doing here?" It was Ethan, who had walked up behind Tessa, his entire demeanor radiating defiance. "Why now, Ava? Why choose us?" In that moment, I felt the storm truly coalescing. We were standing on uncertain ground, and a new wave of conflict surged through the room. Our family was a tapestry that had become perilously knotted, and right now, each of us was tangling further in its tangled threads. "Because you all deserve to know the truth," Ava replied, her voice even, filled with conviction. "And you need to arm yourselves against the world out there. This family doesn't only shelter you, it's a battleground. It always has been." "Arm ourselves?" My father nearly spat the words. "What do you know that warrants your return here?" "I know enough to know that your perfect facade is hiding something dark. Not only did I leave, but I also escaped. I was your worst-kept secret, and I know the truth that your family has been suppressing with layers of lies." The room descended into a low hum of disbelief, followed by rising anxiety. I could feel the tension fracturing us further, each of us caught in a web of old grievances and hidden truths. "No." My mother's voice shook visibly with defiance, lips pressed together in denial. "You can't just rewrite our history with your arrival. Our family has risen above your choices. Your choices kept me from the family I should have known." Ava shot back, her voice gaining strength from the shared pain. "Don't you understand? You're hurting your children by clinging to these lies. They deserve a chance to understand who they are, not just who you wish them to be." As the anger reverberated off the walls, I felt a shudder deep within myself, a strange mix of hope and turmoil. Was it impossible for us to unravel what had so long been buried, laying our authenticity bare, even if it meant rediscovering its complexities? With the chasm growing, a sudden noise erupted, an unexpected crash from the direction of the kitchen, followed by a muffled but unmistakable cry. The moment shattered as our attention snapped toward the sound, adrenaline coursing through me that I glanced at my siblings, heart pounding as another revelation seemed to hover on the precipice. Someone needed to face whatever awaited us in the shadows of our household. Yet, did I have the strength to uncover both the past and whatever lay ahead? As I took a deep breath, preparing to move, Ava's eyes locked onto mine, imploring me to rise to the challenge one way or another. The truth would emerge, and we would all face it together, or separately, surrounded by the swirling echoes of our broken past. The echoes of the crash reverberated throughout the house, pulling our focus away from Ava's revelations and shattering the tense standoff. My heart raced, and I instinctively moved toward the kitchen, my older sibling instincts kicking in. The atmosphere felt charged, not only with the remnants of Ava's admission, but also with an impending urgency. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, the fluorescent lights flickering like anxious fireflies. My eyes darted around searching for the source of the noise, and then I spotted them, our youngest sister, Clara, crouched on the floor, blue and yellow painted ceramic pieces scattered around her like broken dreams. Clara! I rushed to her, my heart clenching at the sight of fear twisting her features. She looked up at me, cheeks glistening with tears. What happened? I was trying to reach for the cookies on the top shelf, and the whole thing fell down. Her voice trembled as she held up her tiny hands, scratched and bruised, that I knelt beside her, carefully gathering the shards, hushing her frantic apologies. It's okay. It was an accident, I whispered, trying to comfort her even as my own heart felt heavy with the chaos unfolding beyond this room. Yet in this moment, her fragility reminded me of something profound. We were all merely trying to keep our balance in a world filled with delicate shards just waiting to fall apart. As I helped Clara to her feet, I felt the weight of our earlier conversations creeping back. The storm didn't reside solely within the walls of the kitchen. It loomed ominously over our family, threatening to consume us whole. Would we all end up like this shattered plate, beautifully crafted, yet now a scattered reminder of a family fraying at the edges? With Clara secured beside me, I took a deep breath and stood back up. The kitchen's open doorway beckoned like a horizon of uncertainty, and as I stepped forward, the rest of my family watched, the atmosphere thick with unresolved emotions. Clara's innocence contrasted sharply with the shadows of our gathering. In the living room, the confrontation had intensified. Ava and my father were locked in a fiery exchange, their voices clashing like thunder. You think throwing accusations will change anything? It won't bring you back, Ava. My father barked, the harsh edge of his words ringing in the air. Maybe not, Ava responded, her voice unwavering, but carrying this weight is destroying us. All of us. Seeing my father like this, lost and burdened with defending a past that never truly belonged to him, pierced me in a way I never expected. Love and hurt intermingled in a complex tapestry, and I realized that we were forever caught between two worlds, the one that was shattered and the one that could still be repaired. Enough, I called out, my voice firm yet small compared to the storm. We can't keep doing this. We need to listen. Their eyes turned to me, and I felt the urgency of the moment. Ava's right. We can't keep living in the shadows. If we're going to heal, even start to understand who we are, have to confront this together. A hush fell over the room as I tried to gauge their reactions. The burden I carried went beyond just my own worries. I felt my siblings' gazes on me, as if they were waiting for me to lead. They had witnessed my quiet addiction to feeling disconnected and lost in cycles of argument. Yet here I stood, a flaring heart yearning not for confrontation, but for truth. Before anyone could respond, another interruption crashed through the fragile truce. Tessa burst into the living room, breathless. You won't believe who's here. Her eyes were wide with excitement and something darker. It's about the letter. The room seemed to shrink, the air thickening as if yearning for clarity, and suddenly I felt the full force of dread and excitement mixing together like rain trapped in the sky, ready to fall. What letter? I asked, feeling the rising tide of uncertainty threaten to drown us all in one wave. The one you forgot to share. The one the lawyer sent. Tessa's voice quivered as she reached into her pocket, pulling out a crumpled envelope. It's addressed to Ava. Ava's expression morphed from steely resolve to confusion, her fierce demeanor now dissolving into bewilderment as she reached for it. I felt the ground beneath us tremble with the weight of her return and whatever this twist of fate might reveal. As Ava opened the letter, the air held its breath, each of us suspended in the sharp clarity of inevitability. What lay within those lines could change everything we ever thought we knew. Our family's history condensed into a message that could rewrite our futures. And just like that, I realized inside of each moment of conflict, there also lay the possibility for kindness, understanding. We had the chance to stitch our stories back together, to weave light into the fabric of our family. But would it be enough? As Ava read aloud, the words rained down like a storm that none of us were prepared to weather. Ava's fingers trembled as she unfolded the letter, her eyes scanning the words in a frantic rush. The room hung heavy with anticipation, breaths caught in throats, hearts thudding in time with her reading. Something profound was about to unfold not just for Ava, but for all of us.it, says she began, her voice wavering. It was about a settlement, a stipulation about family. She paused, her brows knitting together, and I could see the confusion morphing into something sharper, something dangerous. What kind of settlement? My father growled, his brows threatening to braid together in a scowl, as if the injury of the past were bubbling up again. It mentions custody, Ava replied, words spilling out like a torrential downpour. Custody of us, or the right to reconnect. Her voice wobbled, a delicate dance on the precipice of disbelief. It says there's a woman, someone who claims to have been a part of our lives before everything fell apart. Before Mom. A silence crashed over the room, thick and cloying as each word hung in the air. The mention of our mother, sharp knots of grief twisted in our bellies. Who? Clara whispered, clutching my hand tighter, uncertainty glimmering in her innocent eyes. I felt a chill slither down my spine. A mystery long before our time, hovering like a ghost over our fractured family. Tessa's gaze darted to Ava, anxious, her youthful exuberance replaced by concern. What did she want? Tessa pressed, urgency lacing her tone. Also, who is this woman? It doesn't say, Ava replied, her voice quieting to a troubled whisper. Just that she has information that could change everything we thought we understood about our past. About Mom. A pit formed in my stomach, twisting and churning. All this time, we fought against the weight of our history, and now, it seemed we were about to be faced with even more. Hadn't we suffered enough under the specter of what could have been? Why would we want to meet her? My father's skepticism cut through the air, protective and defensive like a fortress around a crumbling castle. Because we need the truth, Dad. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, fueled by frustration and desperation. We've all lived under a cloud of anger and hurt for too long. What if she carries pieces of Mom we never knew? What if she can explain everything? Seconds stretched endlessly as we stared at each other, uncertainty breeding in the silence. I was treading precariously now, balancing on the razor-thin line between seeking answers and digging up wounds best left untouched. Clara tugged at my sleeve, and when I looked down, I saw her frightened expression flicker like that flickering light in the kitchen. But what if she's not nice? She whispered. I don't know, I replied softly, kneeling down to meet her eye level. But are we not ready to face what this could mean for us? Ava still clutched the letter, her presence weighed by uncertainty and resignation. We can't ignore it. We owe it to ourselves, to Mom, to understand why things happened the way they did. The room was heavy with unspoken fears, but also with the faintest glimmer of hope as possibility crackled through the air like electricity. A glimmer that perhaps healing was not a fantasy, but a road just waiting to be traveled, filled with unexpected turns. Yet just when it felt we might find a way forward, the front door swung open with a sudden crash, cutting through our reverie like a wild gust of wind. We all turned toward the entrance, mouths agape, hearts racing as an unfamiliar figure stepped inside. A tall woman emerged from the shadows, her skin a deep, rich hue. Her hair flowed around her face like a midnight curtain lifted from a dreamy, striking presence that charged the room with an unrestrained energy. I am sorry to intrude. Am looking for Ava. Her voice rang out, calm but urgent, cutting through our confusion. Ava's wide eyes met mine. A tumult of surprise and fear spiraled beneath the surface as the weight of revelation gripped us tightly once again. Who are you? My father demanded, stepping forward, shielding us instinctively. The woman hesitated, her expression steady but tinged with vulnerability. "I'm Lila, and I think it's time we talk about your mother. All of you." A collective breath seemed to evaporate. In that moment, all the unresolved emotions spiraled into a nucleus of chaos. My heart raced, a harbinger of the old wounds that were perhaps far from healed, yet somehow, beneath it all, it also dared to hope. What did the future hold? And could this unknown woman truly bridge the chasm that divided us? The uncertainties loomed larger than ever, and as I caught Ava's gaze, I understood that I was standing on the precipice of something enormous, an emotional climax that might rip open the very fabric of our family. But it was too late to turn back. We were on the cusp of a journey that could bring us to our knees or teach us to rise together. What choice would we make? What truths awaited us in the shadows? The tension in the room crackled like a summer storm, dark clouds gathering above us as Lila took a tentative step forward. Her presence was magnetic, pulling us closer, yet I could feel the weight of doubt suffocating the air. "I don't understand why you're here." Ava's voice trembled, uncertainty lacing her words. She stepped back, as if trying to retreat from a truth she wasn't ready to confront. "I know this is hard. Believe me, I never intended to come crashing into your lives like this," Lila said, her tone unwavering yet laced with an undertone of sorrow. "But I carry a piece of your past, a connection that has been silent for too long. Is this some kind of cruel joke?" My father barked, suspicion dripping from his every word. Protective instincts kicked in, and I admired his fierce loyalty even as dread curled in my belly. "You're just some stranger looking for attention. You have no right. Don't you dare dismiss me," Lila replied, voice steady but her eyes brimming with something fierce. "You think I would choose this? You think I wanted to walk into this storm? I came bearing news that could shatter everything you think you know. Why should we trust you?" Tessa's youthful voice quivered with concern. She was trying to mask her fear with bravado. Lila's gaze softened, a flicker of understanding sweeping across her face. "Because I am just as much a part of this story as you are. Because I knew your mother. I was friends with her. I cared about her." My heart skipped a beat at the mention of Mom. Can you imagine? Someone who knew her, who could reveal the secrets wrapped tightly in the fabric of our family's past. What could she hold? Ava fought against the tide of emotions choking her voice. "But how? Why now?" "Because I witnessed the moments that led to your mother's choices. Choices that changed the course of your lives. I had hopes of reconnecting with her before it was too late. But I couldn't find her." Lila's breath caught, a dam of emotions simmering just beneath the surface. "And now, I might still have the chance to help her children understand." The room quaked under the swirl of revelations, and I saw the spark of curiosity ignite in Ava's eyes like a candle flickering in the dark. But fear lurked just behind that flicker, holding us back from diving into the depths of our lost history. "Maybe it's time we gave her a chance," I murmured, stealing a glance at Clara and Tessa. They exchanged apprehensive looks, yet a spark of bravery flickered in Clara's gaze, a tiny whisper that insisted on hope. "What if she's lying?" Tessa challenged, her voice steady but eyes darting toward Lila with skepticism. "Then we'll find out," I replied, determination rising. "But we have to know. We can't keep living in the shadows of our mother's decisions." Lila's eyes shimmered, reflecting our entangled pain, yet also the possibility of unearthing a truth redeemable enough to breathe life back into our family. "This isn't about healing me or you. This is about honoring her memory, about discovering the legacy she left behind." Ava sighed, her breath shaky as if she were caught in a tempest, trapped between anger for a past we could never rewrite and a frightening hope that perhaps we could reclaim pieces of our family history. "Let's give her a shot," Ava finally acquiesced, her voice a trembling thread woven with courage. "But on our terms," Lila nodded, relief washing over her features as if a weight had begun to lift. "Of course, I don't want to impose. I only want to provide what I can." Just as the slightest glimmer of trust began to bloom, the door swung open again, and my heart plummeted. My stomach knotted tightly as we turned toward the Nakamura man, dark-haired and wearing a crisp suit that seemed out of place in our chaotic little home. "Lila," he called, his voice deep and commanding. "We need to leave. Now." The atmosphere shifted palpably, a palpable shift from hope to a sudden chill. Lila's expression hardened, and she glanced back at us, her gaze strained with uncertainty. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice a whisper, almost afraid to tackle the growing unease coiling around. "US to MY brother," she replied, her eyes narrowing as if she were weighing her options. "And he's not as supportive as he appears." Tension crackled in the air, thickening like fog rolling in over crashing waves. The man stepped further inside, his presence unnerving as a wave of familiar dread washed over me. "Lila," he insisted, raising his voice. "You can't keep putting yourself in danger like this." "Danger?" Ava echoed, piercing fear ringing through her words. "What are you talking about?" Lila's expression was a mask of poise, but her eyes betrayed her true feelings. "They'll explain everything, but we need to get out of here together." Quickly, a sudden urgency tightened around our hearts as each second bled into the next, shadows of the unknown stretching into the corners of our minds. What had Lila entangled herself in? And what shadows lurked behind her brother's intense gaze? Before we could question further, Lila stepped toward us, her voice filled with resolve. "Please, you need to trust me. We might be running into something far bigger than our personal tragedies, something that could unravel everything. I promise I will help you understand, but together, we need to protect and uncover the truth." And just like that, we were pulled into a maelstrom. The path ahead was filled with uncertainty, but an ember of sentiment ignited in my chest. The chance to confront the essence of our family history, to uncover raw truths that could heal or further shatter us, awaited in that moment. I realized this was only the beginning. Secrets and stories loomed large ahead, and with a jolt of fear and expectation, I knew we were not just searching for answers about our mother. We were about to dive headfirst into the depths of a legacy that would forever alter the contours of who we were. In the midst of chaos, standing on the precipice of a revelation, I felt a shift beneath my feet. It was as if the universe had conspired to deliver us this moment not as a punishment, but as a liberation. Lila's arrival had turned everything upside down, and I sensed the weight of our family history hovering above us, both ominous and promising. "Lila, wait," I choked out as her brother's urgency faded into the background of my thoughts. "You said you knew our mother. What do you really know? How did she end up in a place where she was so gone from us?" Rage, sadness, and longing poured into my voice as I fought against the familiar tears bubbling at the surface. I could feel my siblings rallying behind me, a quiet but growing force of unity amidst the uncertainty. She was searching for something," Lila replied, her voice steadying as she focused on me, her eyes holding a tempest of memories. "Something that could never be given back. But it was never about abandoning you all. It was about protecting you from the storm she felt was coming. From the family business that started to consume everything she loved." The air thickened once more, holding her words like fragile glass. My mind raced, piecing together the fragments of who our mother had been, the cracks in her facade slowly beginning to form a mosaic of truth. Each word was a stone cast into the deep waters of my heart, sending ripples of understanding that washed against the shores of my worries. "What storm?" Ethan interjected, the determination lacing his tone, igniting an ember in my chest. What was she fighting against? "Things that stretch beyond your understanding," Lila murmured as she cast a glance toward her brother, who remained tense, ready to intervene. "Your mother was at the center of some heavy trends and relationships that silently shaped your family. The wealth that came with costs that many never understood. Secrets, dirty secrets. How do we know you're not just here to stir up more trouble?" My father's voice cut through the air again, raw with skepticism, a protective instinct roiling within him. "What do we stand to gain from reopening old wounds?" Lila stepped forward, her expression softening, a sincerity glimmering in her eyes that seemed almost foreign. "You'll gain the truth, as painful as it may be. Hiding from it has only perpetuated the cycle of hurt. Secrets can suffocate even the brightest souls if left unexamined. You may reject my words, but you can't deny the way your family has suffered under those very shadows." And in that charged moment, all eyes turned back toward me. I could feel my siblings anchoring the weight of our shared vulnerability. "What if we don't want to dive back into the wreckage?" My voice broke, trembling as it escaped. "What if the cost is too high? What if it isn't?" Lila countered, her gaze steady. "Sometimes the echoes of the past hold the keys to the doors of our future. You can choose rage or reconciliation. The choice is yours." That I glanced at Clara, her innocent wonderment still intact beneath the storm swirling within our family. And it was that thoughtless, simple child's heart that had been caught in the chaos of our secrets that pressed me forward. We owe it to ourselves to understand, I declared, voice a whisper, yet carrying the weight of resolve. Not just for our mother, but for each other. Ethan nodded, affirming every unspoken thought that whirled within us. If we want to heal, we have to stop fearing what lies beneath. Let's address this together. My father's defenses began to falter, while my mother's brow furrowed deeper, caught in the turmoil of fear and uncertainty. Yet out of the corner of my eye, I saw a lyric step beside me, a steady force among the storm. Whatever happened in the past can come out now, and well, face it, shoulder to shoulder. We're not losing one another to this again. Tessa's eyes sparkled with determination as she interlaced her fingers with mine, a tangible reminder that we were forever bound together. Then let's face whatever truth awaits. We need to uncover who we really are. Lilith's brother shifted, his demeanor softening slightly at the display of unity before us. If you're prepared to hear it, we will share everything, a truth of your mother and the burdens she carried. But would need you all to meet her before anything else. Meet her? My father echoed incredulously. Who are you talking about? Your mother's past is riddled with those who will stop at nothing to keep the truth buried, Lila said gently, her words unraveling like twine fastened too tightly. The woman you've read about, she was part of it all. She can provide context, and with it perhaps a chance for forgiveness. That I stood on the brink of a decision that carried the weight of our entire legacy. A life altered by the secrets our parents had woven into our existence, by the pain of unanswered questions, a life that had rendered us separate rather than united. What if we face it? I said quietly, my heart pounding with the gravity of my proposal. Knowing the truth could be the very solace that unites all of us. Murmurs of agreement began to ripple among my siblings, our shared fears weaving into an understanding that felt almost palpable. Then, Lila took a cautious step forward, gesturing to her brother to calm down. If you're ready to join us, we can set the next meeting. It won't be easy, but I firmly believe it will be worth it. Your mother deserves to be remembered beyond the echoes of sorrow. A hush blanketed us as the gravity of her words settled in. The length of our journey loomed before us, the unknown vast and terrifying, yet eerily enticing. I finally looked around, a collection of strong souls eager to rewrite our story. Let's do it, I said with confidence swelling in my chest. Let's gather the pieces of our family past and build a future on truth. With a collective breath of determination, our family opened the door to the unknown, ready to face the tidal wave of history that awaited. We stood shoulder to shoulder, hearts intertwined, and as Lila led us forward, it finally felt like we were breaking free from the chains that had long kept us bound. The path to understanding may be jagged, fraught with the memories of the past and the storms that linger within our hearts, but the knowledge shared would, in time, illuminate the hope for tomorrow, a hope fueled by forgiveness and the promise of reunion. And in that moment, as I glanced at each of my siblings, I understood, love is always a challenge, but maybe it's worth the fight, and we finally found our way back home.